Trapmore gang, since these Epstein files have been circulating, we're seeing more and more theories, bits of evidence, and little coincidences that seem to point to Jeffrey Epstein faking his death. I'm just not going to sugarcoat it. We're seeing more and more and more evidence that seems to suggest that Jeffrey Epstein, his death, was it a murder? Was it completely fake? Was he snuck out of the prison? And in this video, I'm going to show you even more proof that appears to suggest that they faked Epstein's death. I can't even believe I'm saying this. But in this video, I'm going to show you a whole bunch of evidence, a bunch of links that I've got here to basically just summarize all the new stuff that has been coming out over the past few days. Make it pretty hard to believe the official story about Jeffrey Epstein. That's the best way I'm going to put it. Okay, so the first thing I want to show you is this. All right, you're not going to believe some of this stuff that I'm going to show you in this video. Okay, there's been a growing body of evidence, all right, that suggests that perhaps the prison guards might have been involved in maybe faking Epstein's death. I showed you a video, I believe it was yesterday or the day before, where they're talking about they believe that the prison guards might have actually offed Jeffrey Epstein. Now, okay, we don't know for sure. Maybe they want to put it around that the prison guards finished off Jeffrey Epstein because they might have actually helped him get out and fake his death. It's possible. This video is definitely an eye-opener. Check this out.
So you know how the jail workers said they think they switched Epstein out when that unmarked transport van showed up when they're not normally showing up? I think I found something. So in the data dump, they let us have like the hours and days leading up to, and this is the last. Wait till you see this shit. This is what you do is, this is the PDF, right? You search the PDF, you copy the link address, you put it in another, right? I'm putting the link in there, paste. But you take the PDF away and you put MP4. Boom, you can watch videos. Now look at this shit. What in the absolute fuck? There's clearly an obstacle blocking people's view on purpose.
Now, this makes no sense. And we did see in testimony from people that were in the prison that once Epstein's body was discovered, they put up sheets and screens to basically obscure the view of what was going on with him. But what's really crazy, this is 5 p.m. on August the 10th. So this would have been 4 hours. This would have been 11 hours after his death, but they got these screens up. You can't see anyone who's coming or going. They've intentionally concealed. So the cameras that got deleted, all right, they did a great job deleting them cameras, but they had to let a little bit of film run afterwards, and they're putting up screens. Like, what do you think we're dumb? Do you think we're just absolute sheeple, that we're just going to accept that all the important footage is deleted, and even this footage that you tried to hide from us, you got a random screen up? Okay.
Next day at 5 o'clock, this is where the data set picks up. So copy link address. Put it here, take away PDF, MP4, go, boom. Look, it's all this.
It's a joke. It's a fucking joke. Really? 10 p.m.? You got screens up? They've moved this. It is a joke.
Oh, we have a few hours missing from there too. Okay.
A few hours missing, screen up.
So it jumped.
What a joke.
So the data set did jump. We lost some hours there. Went from 5 to 6 to 10 to 11. So we lost a few hours. That's cool too.
Not only are we missing when it all happened, but hours are missing after the data set picked up. So the big question is that's on everybody's mind, okay? And I'm scared to even bring this to the table. Sometimes I start digging into things and my research is too good. And I start thinking, whoops-a-daisy, I might have uncovered something crazy. Because you're probably wondering, who would have faked Epstein's death? Who could have possibly, and this is just opinion, this is just conspiracy-minded opinions. I love being alive, and absolutely not saying that any of what I'm about to say is definitely true or what happened. But who could have been the person that was in the prime position that could have feasibly, reasonably organized the faking of Epstein's death and alleged escape? Well, I think that there's a pretty good case to be made that person, okay, that person may well have been, all right, I don't even want to say, I'm actually scared to tell you guys this. All right, let me rephrase it so they don't come and get me, okay? A man like Jeffrey Epstein had unlimited resources, okay, and a lot of connections. He would need somebody big, somebody heavy in, the world of justice, in the Justice Department, all right, in the legal world to pull this off. So if only he had connections to perhaps somebody at the very, very top of the totem pole when it comes to justice, corrections. I'm just going to say it. I'm scared. I'm actually scared to say it, but I'm just going to say it. Okay. Much of the speculation about who might have been responsible for this, it all relates to Epstein's long rumored connection to William Barr, who was appointed as the Attorney General shortly after Epstein's final arrest.
Again, allegedly, we're not saying this is the case. That's what people say, but New York Times, if you had someone called you New York Times in 1992 and something happens, fast forward 2019, that's a long time to have that kind of a reputation. He started in the CIA in the 70s while still in law school. Throughout his career, maintained close ties to the intelligence and national security circles. George Bush, CIA director turned president. Barr was the AG during the final years of Bush 41 administration. That's how long he goes back. He pardoned key Iran-Contra figures, effectively shutting down deeper investigations into covert arms and drug operations. And Epstein was arrested in July 2019 and died just 1 month later. Barr returned as Attorney General February of 2019, 5 months before that. Little weird. You can say whatever you want to say about this thing here. It's also another thing we need to put into evidence as we're doing the Epstein files.
Little weird, all right? Little weird. Yes, that's a little suspicious, isn't it? His dad wrote weird books, really weird stuff. It all goes back to the Barrs, all right? Stay after it, brother. I've suspected Barr all along. The case holds water. Never trusted Bill Barr. So according to sources, all right, Bill Barr and Epstein had apparently been friends since literal childhood.
So William Barr is a cover-up guy, and he's been with the CIA forever. And it's even on his Wikipedia page that he was in the CIA at a very young age.
No, I mean, you see, didn't he and Epstein actually go to school together, or they were at a summer camp together? There was some kind of a picture from them when they were kids.
Okay, so I was given a picture of Jeffrey Epstein at Interlochen summer camp.
Right.
And I was given a picture of someone that looked exactly like Donald Barr, who was also attending Interlochen summer camp.
Did it end up being him or no?
My source said it was, but then Interlochen said it wasn't.
This picture right here?
Yes, that's the picture. Now, that looks a lot like William Barr. But my source says it was, and Interlochen says it wasn't. So that's a wash.
So let's take a closer look at that pic, right? The controversial camp photo where it appeared to show a young Jeffrey Epstein and a figure that many speculate is indeed a young William Barr, right? Clearly Jeffrey Epstein, all right? Future Pac and William Barr. Allegedly, all right? It's not been confirmed. Some have denied it. Little bit suspicious, little bit close, all right? These sorts of black and white pictures just creep me out. This is like haunted media, okay? Now, the Barr camp has denied that it's him, okay? But here's an even closer look at the figure in the photo and a direct comparison. I mean, yes, I mean, the resemblance is uncanny. Is not a powerful enough of a word to describe the resemblance between these two individuals. I mean, come on. But hey, could not be him. They're denying it's him. I don't know why they would want to deny it's him, but they're denying it's him. Okay. Now, interestingly, okay, this connection between Epstein and the Barrs, I'm not talking about the Barrs in the prison where he lost his life. I'm talking about the William Barr family, the Barr clan. Okay. This apparently spans generations, and Epstein actually has connections to William Barr's father, which you might have already known, but that makes it even more
Then in 1974, he began teaching math and physics at Dalton, an elite Manhattan prep school. He was hired by Donald Barr, who was Bill Barr's father. By the way, Bill Barr's father wrote something very interesting. He wrote a book called Space Relations, a scientific fiction novel in 1973 set in a future where humans have formed an intergalactic empire ruled by aristocrats, where they ruled over and engaged in coercive acts with enslaved individuals, including teenagers, in a breeding clinic. Little weird. What book did your dad write? My dad wrote this book about, you know what I'm saying? A book about, enslaving individuals and engaging in coercive acts, including teenagers in a breeding clinic. Oh, okay, normal dad. Everybody's dad writes stuff like that. I mean, my dad wrote a book like that. You understand what I'm saying? That's a little weird when you go to, but what does Bill Barr have to do with this? We'll come back to this.
Little bit sus, right? We've heard about this book before and it's super creepy. Now, apparently, okay, Epstein was hired at Dalton by Donald Barr. Despite lacking the proper college degree or professional credentials, I wonder what was so impressive about Jeffrey Epstein back in the 80s.
For now. So Donald Barr in 1974 hires Jeffrey Epstein at the Dalton School.
Does Donald Barr have intelligence connections himself?
Yes, he certainly does, as would be a surprise to all of you, as do all of the storied families of the people who are connected to the most elite private schools here in New York City. So here we have a New York Times report from 2019. Jeffrey Epstein taught at Dalton. His behavior was noticed. And what they talk about specifically is that Epstein, even here in his early 20s, is already exhibiting the pedophile behavior that it becomes known for. He starts harassing a lot of young girls, and in the span of just 1 year, finds himself basically under investigation and departs under weird circumstances after teaching math here at the Dalton School. So the question is, why did Donald Barr hire Jeffrey Epstein, a person at the Dalton School, to teach math despite having no credentials, no college degree? I mean, you can't even get a job at a public school without a college degree and a teacher certification.
The math ain't mathin', is it? The math ain't mathin' for some reason. Now, here's an interesting point that's been flying around. On August the 8th, 2019, which if you remember, that's actually August the 8th, 2019 is the day that the cameras stopped working in the MCC. And the same day, 2 days before Epstein was found dead in his cell, he signed his final will and he moved massive amounts of money. What a coinky dink, right? What a coinky dink.
2 days before he killed himself, allegedly, committed suicide. You know what he did 2 days before he killed himself? Epstein's estate transferred $577 million into a trust he created 2 days before his death. And it was called the 1953 Trust. Why 1953? That's the year he was born. A little weird. 2 days before, kind of weird. Either you are like fully prepared, or it's a little weird. Remember how earlier we were talking about Bill Barr connection with the dad and all this other kind of little weird, you know, Bill Barr, New York Times called him the ultimate cover-up general. New York Times called him that in 1992 when they were going through a complete different thing. Imagine Bill Barr's being called the cover-up general 33 years ago by New York Times. Damn! That kind of a reputation for this long. Bill Barr's role as Attorney General during Epstein is extremely significant. Why? Because some are calling this the ultimate potential intelligence cover-up. His background, past behavior in the context of Epstein's death led to many describing Barr as a CIA fixer or the guardian of the deep state.
A lot was going on, right? Same day the camera stopped working, you know, like a little cheeky little 500 million gets transferred to a trust. What are the chances? Okay. Now, on August the 12th, 2 days after Jeffrey Epstein gets packs himself, following the incident, okay, William Barr would publicly blame the prison that was managed by his own department, and he promised a full investigation into his own prison managed by his own department.
Angry to learn of the MCC's failure to adequately secure this prisoner. We are now learning of serious irregularities at this facility that are deeply concerning and demand a thorough investigation. The FBI and the Office of Inspector General are doing just that. We will get to the bottom of what happened, and there will be accountability. But let me assure you that this case will continue on against anyone who was complicit with Epstein. Any co-conspirators should not rest easy. The victims deserve justice, and they will get it.
Don't know if they will. Don't know if they will. Sounds like cap to me. All right, sounds like cap to me. They're saying in the comments, we'll never find out the truth. Now, according to Epstein's cellmate, who was transferred out conveniently the day before the alleged death, and then later died suspiciously of COVID, okay, apparently Attorney General William Barr questioned him personally. Right? It says, after the shocking self-deletion, Reyes told inmates at GEO that he'd been questioned personally by then Attorney General William Barr, according to a source, but a former Barr spokesman denied the account. And Reyes was released from the GEO, officially known as the Queen's Detention Facility, in April after catching coronavirus. Okay? Unfortunately, he ended up dying on November the 27th at a Bronx apartment belonging to his mother and niece. A source said he never fully recovered from COVID-19 and he had breathing problems. Sure. Okay. Yeah, okay. Okay, yeah. Okay. So shout out to my guy, all right? This is a very controversial figure, but I want to bring him up. And I actually met Charleston White very recently, okay? He's been vocal with his own eccentric reasons for believing that Epstein is very much still alive, okay? So I feel like this is very important. We've got to go check in and see what Charleston White thinks of the situation. It's very crucial.
What do you think about Epstein?
He alive somewhere hiding. Prior to his death, there was already attempts made upon his life in jail. How is it a coincidence that he ended up in jail with a suicide, but the autopsy report said his larynx was crushed? You can't do that with suicide. Motherfucker got to choke you to do that. Why don't the media do Epstein like they do Diddy? We know everything. We know Diddy like to put cum on his nipples for men. Him and Cassie like to suck the cum off. So this is detail. Why we don't know details about Epstein? Where are the children? Where are their stories? Where are their testimonies? Why don't we have open access to Giselle's testimony and her cooperation with the government?
You mean Ghislaine? Yeah.
Ghislaine.
Yeah, yeah.
You know why? Because most of the people went to the island was politicians and powerful people, princesses of Wales, all them types, the real freaks, the evil people.
The evil freaks, all right? He's basically saying Charleston White, all right, just like a lot of other people, but I just think it's funny to use Charleston White as a primary source on this. Everybody thinks Epstein is still alive, okay? Everybody thinks that they might have switched him out. Now, the prevailing theory is that Epstein executed a dead man switch, okay? Basically, this is a cache of information that would be released if he died, okay? And many believe that this same leverage that's actually keeping Ghislaine Maxwell alive today. So a dead man switch is basically the idea that, like, you pile up a bunch of really crazy shit, and if you die, it's to be released. If I die, release this information, and I want to burn the whole house down. But it's believed that perhaps this information being kept, that dead man switch not being touched, it might be what's keeping Ghislaine alive, because she's basically she's now the guardian of the dead man switch, and it's basically saying, well, if you kill me, I'm going to let all the secrets come out.
Now, the real question is, would Epstein have ever really pulled the trigger with his blackmail, if that's what it was?
Well, maybe Ghislaine has it somewhere, and she's got a dead man switch, and that's why she's safe.
Ghislaine has everything.
I wonder who has it or what lawyer has it. How do you do that?
Well,
if she does have it, does she tell 3 lawyers that pays each a certain amount of money to keep, that if something ever happens to me, leak it? How do you do that if you have that kind of information?
Well, she's got 2 brothers that I guarantee if she's going to tell anybody, she's going to tell them. I mean, look, if she was compelled and we shot her up with sodium pentothal, there'd be a lot of powerful people go down because she was there for everything. She was the madam. She was the madam. She was the recruiter. She had a deep crush on this guy, and she did everything. She is the deep throat of the Epstein saga.
That's hilarious. The deep throat's crazy, all right? Shout out to was that Watergate? The deep throat guy was giving off all the information. But anyway, okay, on September the 2nd, 2025, Republican Representative Luna recently suggested that Epstein's operations were actually deeply tied to intelligence agencies, and the US knew all about this. And if anybody's going to be able to successfully execute a fake death, it's definitely intelligence agencies from any country.
The biggest thing that stands out to me is the victims themselves have stated that this is a lot bigger than I think anyone anticipated. We are obviously going to be requesting the SARS reports from Treasury, and also following up on that. There's some very rich and powerful people that need to go to jail. I think everyone's been frustrated as to why that hasn't happened before. But it is very much so a possibility that Jeffrey Epstein was an intelligence asset working for our adversaries. But also, too, I think the questions that we have is how much did our own government know about it? And so there's more to follow, and I'm sure you'll be hearing from the chairman momentarily. But I do applaud.
So this aligns with claims from a former Israeli intelligence officer, Ari Ben Menashe, who would basically claim that Epstein was running a honey trap operation for national security purposes. He was getting this creepy island. This was a big honeypot for successful, creepy, like big dog men in America to basically come and compromise themselves on his island in front of the cameras and with all of this blackmail so that they could basically exploit these men and get them to do what they wanted for national security purposes.
I suppose what the most alarming allegations that you've been making are that the entire Epstein operation was a honey trap operation to entrap politicians, policymakers, celebrities, people in the media eye, basically to become Israel's assets.
Correct. It became basically an intelligence operation to entrap different politicians around the world.
Tell me about what evidence you have for this.
At this point, this is all I can say. That's what it was.
Because the mainstream media narrative is, we don't know about Ghislaine Maxwell. She denies all wrongdoing. And basically, Epstein was a pedophile and was a successful banker. He made lots of money, and he was a criminal pedophile, and he died in a jail awaiting justice. That's the story. Nothing to do with Mossad, nothing to do with Israeli military intelligence, nothing to do with Israel.
Yeah, they would deny it. It's a real bad story, and they would deny it. But he was put straight with the Israelis by Robert Maxwell at the time, a military intelligence, and started working there for them.
I mean,
I'll be real. I do feel like the whole Mossad honeypot theory is a little bit far-fetched. I feel like there could be elements of this honey trap operation, or it could be elements of he just so happened to end up blackmailing a lot of successful people. And then maybe he did find ways to use that. Maybe he did get in touch with governments, organizations. How was he making so much money? Maybe he sold some information to the wrong people. But the idea that he was a full-blown intelligence asset that was bred to basically, give like other nations materials to use against powerful people in countries like America, I feel like that's a little bit far-fetched, to be honest. That's just my opinion, but I could be wrong. All right. So the last thing I want to show you is just something that kind of parallels, okay? Because this is something that people want to believe that the Americans, they would never, ever fake somebody's death and get a really awful person out of the way to protect an intelligence asset. Right? Oh, no. So this is insane. Just to show you that America actually is capable of doing this, okay? And look, I might read this whole article because I'm interested. In 1983, the United States apologized for helping Nazi war criminal Klaus Barbie escape to South America from Germany, and they admitted they did it to avoid public embarrassment and protect intelligence agencies. So if you think that America isn't capable of getting I'm not going to lie, Klaus Barbie might be worse than Epstein. It depends what kind of crimes. I think abusing children is absolutely disgusting, despicable. I think the systemic genocide of human beings, like different kind of evil, different breed of evil. But like, if America is capable of helping people this bad flee, hide, get out the way, absolutely capable of helping Epstein. Are you dumb? Are you joking? This is a joke. The US admits it helped Barbie flee. All right. Washington, U.S. intelligence officers obstructed justice by concealing a valued informant accused Nazi war criminal Klaus Barbie from French prosecutors and by helping him to escape to Bolivia, Justice Department's investigators reported yesterday. The investigators' 218-page report, okay, accompanied by hundreds of documents, was the first official government admission of a U.S. misconduct in shielding Barbie. A former SS and Gestapo officer known as the Butcher of Leon. If they would help the Butcher of Leon get out the country and cover it up for years, you might be seeing an article like this around Jeffrey Epstein. 2050, we apologize, we helped Jeffrey Epstein, he was an intelligence asset, we have deep regret. The State Department, acting on a recommendation from the Justice Department Special Assistant Alan A. Ryan Jr., Chief Investigator of the U.S. Barbie ties, sent a formal note to France expressing deep regret for concealing Barbie. We're sorry we hid the Butcher of Leon. The French Embassy in Washington said its government had no immediate comment. U.S. protection of Barbie, who was a paid informant for the Army Counterintelligence Corps from 1947 to 1950, delayed his trial in France for 33 years, Ryan said. Barbie, who will be 70 in October, was expelled from Bolivia in February and is in a French prison awaiting trial. He's accused of ordering the slaughter of 4,000 French Jews and the deportation of 7,500 persons to a Nazi concentration camp while he was a top Nazi officer in Lyon from 1942 to 1944. Look, call me out if you want. That's worse than what Epstein did. That is actually worse. Like slaughtering 4,000 people. Epstein's a piece of shit for sure. This guy's worse, and they covered up for this guy. Absolutely disgusting. Absolutely despicable. The Justice Department report expressed no opinion as to Barbie's guilt or innocence, but it condemned the actions of about half a dozen US Army intelligence officers up to the rank of Brigadier General for hiding Barbie's whereabouts from French authorities. The report, however, excused the CIC for hiring Barbie after World War II as an informant who spied on the German Communist Party and on French and Soviet activities in the US-controlled zone of Germany. People want to talk about how they hate snitches. This is the worst snitch. Slaughtered 4,000 people, turned snitch, and they let him slide. The US fucked up even allowing that to happen. Although US intelligence officers are subject to valid criticism by those who find use of a Gestapo official under any circumstances reprehensible, the report said that the recruitment of Barbie did not amount to the knowing use of a war criminal. The decision to use Barbie was a defensible one made in good faith by those who believed that they were advancing legitimate and important national security interests. This is the exact type of shit that they would say about Epstein. If it finally got revealed that Epstein was hidden or he was saved or that they protected him in some way because he was an intelligence asset, this is the exact sentence that they'll use. The decision to use Epstein was a defensible one made in good faith by those that believe they were advancing legitimate and important national security interests. That's what they would say. It says France, Great Britain and the Soviet Union similarly used former Nazi officials in Germany after World War II and are in no position to criticize the US, Ryan said. Yesterday, in response to the report, the Soviet Union criticized the Justice Department. The officers of the Justice Department have drawn a conclusion which is striking in its cynicism, the official TASS news agency said. It was recommended that the US administration only express its regret to the government of France. Army intelligence officers knew before hiring Barbie that he was a former Gestapo officer and that he was wanted for murder. The report said. Moreover, the French had filed murder, terrorism and massacre charges against him as early as 1944 with the UN War Crimes Commission and Barbie listed on the Central Registry of War Criminals and Security Suspects. But Ryan concluded that CIC officers had no reliable information until May 1949, 2 years after Barbie was first employed, that Barbie was suspected of war crimes or crimes against humanity. Until then, the US intelligence officers probably thought that the murder charges grew out of Barbie's role in the deaths of French resistance fighters, according to the Justice report. However, the army officers first obstructed justice in 1950. The report said when France saw extradition of Barbie from the US, High Commissioner from Germany, the officers decided that Barbie should not be placed in the hands of the French. The late Brigadier General Robert K. Taylor, Chief of U.S. Military Intelligence in the U.S.-controlled zone of Germany, told the Director of Intelligence for the High Commissioner in June 1950 that Barbie had not been employed by the CIC since 1949 and that the CIC had not been in touch with him since late April 1950, the report said. Both statements were false, Ryan said. Actually, Army intelligence officers knew about Barbie's whereabouts at all times from April 1947 to March 1951, when they arranged Barbie's escape to Bolivia under a false name through a form of underground railway for defectors known as the Rat Line. But why did the US officers shield Barbie? Ryan gave this explanation. Surrender of Barbie would embarrass the CIC by revealing that it had used a former Gestapo official and would risk the compromise of CIC procedures and information should Barbie decide to reveal what he had learned over the 3 years of CIC employment. Barbie is the manager of ... So let me rephrase that and tell you exactly what they would say if they were exposed for having Jeffrey Epstein in the same circumstances. Surrender of Jeffrey Epstein would embarrass the CIA by revealing that it had used a former convicted PDF file and human trafficker and would risk the compromise of CIA procedures and information should Epstein choose to reveal what he had learned in over 3 years of CIA employment. They don't want you to know what Epstein learned. They don't want you to know what's going on. Okay, this is all just my opinion. This is a theory. Okay, I'm good. I'm just trying to stay alive, gang. All right, staying alive. Okay, but I think Epstein could be watching this video. I'm gonna keep it real with you. Epstein could be watching this video. He could be alive, kicking it somewhere. They've got him out the way. They put him on the rat. Was it the rat train? The rat tunnel? They might have put him on the rat tunnel. If he's got bigger fish to rat on, They might have put him on the rat tunnel. Let me know what you guys think below. Is this a bunch of nonsense conspiracy theories, or does this hold water? I want to know what you guys think, and I'm going to be back with another video tomorrow. I've got on 2 videos today. I'm going to do 2 more tomorrow, and I'm going to keep an eye on everything that's going on. I will keep you guys informed on everything that's happening as best as I can. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. But for now, I'm out, gang. Peace.